Following our coverage of the Euro 2000 final, we're running 25 minutes later than billed. Right now on LWT, highlights of today's French Grand Prix.
F1 2000 passes the halfway stage. We're at Manicourt in France. Championship leader Michael Schumacher has won 4 out of 6 races here. He starts as the favourite. Hello there, good evening. Welcome to our review of this afternoon's French Grand Prix. Schumacher has been encountering some very tough resistance all weekend from Britain's David Coulthard. The Scot putting the disappointments of Canada behind him to put up an excellent showing in qualifying. It's Ferrari who set the early pace, with Schumacher putting in a blistering lap to beat his teammate to the pole. In the garage next door, there's mayhem around David Coulthard's car. The McLaren, dogged by mechanical failures, fuel pumps, oil leaks and engine failures, have blighted his weekend as well as a spin while on a hot lap. Under those conditions, Coulthard very happy to start from the front row. So Michael Schumacher, the poleman, for the 4th time in 5 races. Coulthard second again, Barrichello third, ahead of Hakkinen. Good efforts from Ralf Schumacher, and Irvine placed them 5th and 6th. Then Villeneuve ahead of the Jordans, Frentzen and Trulli. Jenson Button 10th, then Johnny Herbert, Salo, De La Rosa and Fisichella way down in 14th. Row 8, Deniz and Heidfeld. Row 9, Wirtz and Alesi, the only Frenchman in the field, followed by Zonta, Verstappen, Genet and Mazzacani. Well, you may know Murray Walker has injured his hip. He's taking a 1-race break. So in the commentary box for the French Grand Prix, we have Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Martin, give us the view from a driver. What's it like now you're making your way onto the grid?
Well, this is tense time. You're in the zone, the critical zone here, where you must not make a mistake. You know, if you stall the engine, you're going to be at the back of the grid. You're looking in your mirror, you're thinking they're taking an enormous amount of time to file in line behind me. Your temperatures are rising. You've got to stay very, very calm. Your seatbelts seem a little bit too tight. Your right boot seems a bit too loose. You're moving your visor around, and the light is on. Stay calm, put it in first gear, put it about 12,000 revs, and just steer at those lights. Control the wheel spin, you're away. See who's doing what around you. Are you on the attack or are you on the defence?
Schumacher leads. Hakkinen, Coulthard and Barrichello are side by side as they go through Grand Courbe and down to Estoril the third. And Barrichello gets into second place. Coulthard third. Hakkinen having a go at Coulthard as they go out of Estoril corner. Villeneuve is extremely well up as well. And look at the 2 Jordans. Eddie Irvine's a loser there from the looks of things. But Michael Schumacher has the clear advantage as they head down to the hairpin for the first time.
Yes, and Coulthard having a look up the inside of Barrichello. That was definitely not in his game plan, and it looks extremely busy in the midfield. They're virtually stationary on the inside of Adelaide hairpin, but a dream start for Ferrari.
And a dream start for Villeneuve, and a dream start for Heidfeld. Frentzen also in the Jordan. He's well up, and he's even passed Ralf Schumacher in the Williams. So Villeneuve going well, Frentzen going well. Eddie Irvine a bit of a loser there as Schumacher starts to put some clear air between himself and the pursuing pack. Barrichello second, Coulthard third, Hakkinen fourth, Villeneuve fifth.
There'll be a big grin on that square jaw of Michael Schumacher's when he looks in his mirrors to see a scarlet Ferrari that's the next car along the racetrack. That is absolutely perfect for him. And now Coulthard's got to follow that Ferrari, and the problem here is you pick up so much understeer, so much of the front end sliding. Villeneuve, they're locking up into the chicane, and Coulthard very, very close to Barrichello, but not close enough to have a look. So he needs to make a move very quickly. Coulthard has to get past that Ferrari somehow, but he can't stay close enough through this next section, turn 3, the Estoril corner.
Absolutely critical time of a motor race off the start line from a stationary start with tyres which are cooling down. How quick can you do that lap from a stationary start? How big a gap can you build up in the opening lap, 2 laps? Michael Schumacher, an absolute master at it. Mika Häkkinen in recent years has been too, but right now he's languishing in 4th place as Coulthard comes very close up onto Rubens Barrichello into the hairpin.
I remember in this race last year, albeit in the rain, Barrichello was leading for much of the race, but he was extremely cautious under braking for Adelaide hairpin, and it does seem if Coulthard can get anywhere near the gearbox of that Ferrari, he should be able to brake a little bit later. Schumacher leads, Barrichello 2nd, Coulthard 3rd, then it's Mika Häkkinen in 4th place. Villeneuve is 5th, Frentzen 6th, Ralf Schumacher down to 7th place, Jarno Trulli holds station where his grid position at 8th. Mika Salo, a terrific start for him up in 9th place. Irvine has gone from 6th down to 10th. Jenson Button's dropped a place down to 11th. Johnny Herbert's dropped a place down to 12th. Then it's Della Rosa, Heidfeld and Lacey going well in 15th. Fisichella, a bit of a loser at the start as well, in 16th place. What are we going to see here? This looks like Frentzen, amazingly getting up the inside there of... or actually, no, it's Trulli. He's coming back past again. Ralf Schumacher having a re-go at him coming out of that last corner. So let's see how that... Ralf Schumacher is now actually down in 8th, so he didn't make it on the way into that first corner. Trulli did get past. We didn't see the end of that move, finally. So Schumacher leading from Barrichello, 3.6 seconds now the advantage. Coulthard just over a second behind, then Häkkinen 1.2 down on his teammate. Villeneuve holding in there as well, 9 seconds behind the leader, just 3 seconds shy of the pace of Häkkinen. Frentzen still there, Ralf Schumacher and Jarno Trulli. And Coulthard, well, they seem to me, Martin, to be carrying roughly the same amount of fuel. I have to say that the leaders in this race, they're running a similar sort of pace. Schumacher obviously made a blistering opening account, first 2 or 3 laps. Now the pace seems to have settled, and they seem to be carrying roughly the same sort of fuel load at the moment. Yes, they do. Michael's just come over the line at a 20.6, Barrichello 20.8, Coulthard 20.7, and Häkkinen the first one then in the 21.0. So Coulthard just about matching now Michael Schumacher's pace, but he's got Barrichello between him and his World Championship rival. Michael Schumacher chasing his 22nd career victory for the Ferrari team. He's already the most successful Ferrari driver of all time. And this weekend, his team boss, Jean Todt, is celebrating 7 years in control of the Maranello team. And certainly when he took over, the prancing horse was looking pretty lame. They even had to pay for the mechanics' overalls, fireproof overalls in the pit stops. Now it's a sponsorship, it's available at the highest price. Who wants to buy the Ferrari overalls? So let's have a quick look at the top 6. Michael Schumacher leads from Rubens Barrichello, then it's David Coulthard with Häkkinen 4th, Jacques Villeneuve 5th, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 6th place. This is the scrap for the final points-paying position, and Ralf is taking all sorts of different lines from Frentzen around this track, but Trulli certainly closing the gap, and they are in turn closing up a little bit on Jacques Villeneuve, who had a poor lap that last time by. Yes, I saw Ralf Schumacher again doing what he was doing in Canada and leaning down in the cockpit, trying to get more airflow through the intake above his head. Can give you 3 or 4 more horsepower if you get a bit more positive pressure in there. I'll point it out again if I see it in time. And we're happen to be watching Ralf Schumacher. But we're back now with Barrichello in 2nd place and Coulthard still harrying him. Häkkinen just dropped back now by about 1.8 seconds from Coulthard, and it's pretty much status quo, isn't it? It is, but Rubens Barrichello just dropped some time there to Michael Schumacher on that last lap. It was a slow lap from Rubens, and it seems to have allowed David to just get that little bit closer to him in this battle for 2nd place. Häkkinen still a bit of a drift there, and 7 seconds disadvantage to Michael Schumacher, and in fact he's just over 2 seconds back from Coulthard. All 22 cars are still running in the field. Looking at Coulthard there, who's just been re-signed for with McLaren for 2001, and he starts his 6th year in partnership with Mika Häkkinen. That's the longest partnership in the history of Formula One, and I think to get anywhere near that you have to go back pre-war to Caracciola and Von Brauwich, I think it was. And I think in recent times, relatively recent times, the next longest partnership between 2 drivers in the same team was Jackie Stewart and Francois Sever in the Tyrrell, I'm led to believe. It's a good sign really, isn't it, Martin? Consistency in a team. If you can keep the same family together, you can move and develop and grow over the years. And certainly the McLaren team spent a long time in the wilderness
with changes of engine. I remember when you were there back in '94 with the Peugeot engine, and they shifted around. They had a Fords for a while. And whoa, that looks like one of the Prost that spun. It is indeed. It looks like a Lacey, a little bit hot into the Adelaide hairpin from the looks of things. And he's certainly been passed by Fisichella and Heidfeld and Verstappen, I believe, as well. So lost a little bit of space there, I think. That's Heidfeld and Fisichella. And they're running currently in 14th and 15th place. Let's take a look again, Martin.
Oh, right, and it's... Oh, I think that was Heidfeld who tipped a Lacey into a spin, his teammate. Heidfeld came in a little bit too deep in his attempts to pass the Benetton and ran into the back of his teammate.
And this is Rubens Barrichello in second place, coming under a lot of pressure now from David Coulthard as they go through the long Estoril corner. Mika Häkkinen also in touch there in fourth, but Coulthard gets a great drive off the corner and he's getting into the slipstream of Rubens Barrichello. I think Barrichello's going to be in trouble here. Coulthard makes a look. Oh, no, he backs out of it, but he's going to have a go down the outside. Coulthard makes a move, cuts to the inside, and it's going to be side by side as they accelerate up through the gears. 100 miles an hour, 120 miles an hour now as Coulthard takes the position. Second place away from Rubens Barrichello. What a great move by David Coulthard. He'd been building up to it for a few laps, and Rubens has to slide back into third, Häkkinen fourth. This is lap 19, and now David Coulthard is going to start thinking very hard about making a move on Michael Schumacher, and Johnny Herbert retires from a Grand Prix once again. Poor Johnny. It's all starting to happen now in the pit stops. Jack Villeneuve is in the pits. Also in the pits is Ralf Schumacher, and so is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Slow away for Ralf Schumacher. Has he lost the position that he had before? Has he lost time to Frentzen? He's certainly back out on the track, Frentzen. So a critical time now in the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place battle here.
That could actually play into Jenson Button's hands as well, because that was a very slow getaway there for Ralf Schumacher. And Button has really been homing in on his teammate and those two Jordans.
And Mika Häkkinen is in the pits as well, unseen by us. There he is, Mika Häkkinen from 4th place, lap 23 this is exactly when I thought they would start coming in. One or two of them look as though they're going to run longer, Schumacher, Coulthard and Barrichello. Nice stop there by the McLaren team. They are really the best at this. I've watched them many, many times. They are super slick. Mike Nagleimer, chief mechanic, has them drilled. It's like a military operation, and Häkkinen giving himself a fighting chance.
We're going through a very critical phase of this Grand Prix. Coulthard's been released. He's a full half-second faster than Michael Schumacher on the last lap. Jenson Button is in the pits from a current 4th place. We'll see where he comes out onto the track. Is he ahead of the Jordans? Is he ahead of... The Jordans haven't stopped yet, actually, but is he ahead of Ralf Schumacher, his teammate? It's going to be interesting to see. But Coulthard has already started to bite into Michael Schumacher's lead. How long can Coulthard stay out on the racetrack? If he's got a couple of laps of fuel in his tank, he's currently pulling out well over a second a lap. And there's the, I can see down the Ferrari mechanics getting ready. It's Michael Schumacher in the pit lane now, and he can just drive straight into his pit garage. And there, a full 22 people involved in making sure that they get this car out in 6 or 7 seconds. And that is the clock didn't stop on time. It's a reasonable stop, not sensational.
Definitely a two-stopper for Michael Schumacher then. His first stop on lap 24 from the lead, and that means that Coulthard now leads the French Grand Prix. He was 4.2 seconds behind him at the end of the last lap. Michael will have lost 21 seconds to Coulthard. There's Coulthard leading this motor race. Rubens Barrichello is in second place, but where is Mika Häkkinen? Is he in front or behind of Michael Schumacher? Got to be behind, I think, Martin.
I think he'll almost certainly be behind him. It wasn't a bad enough stop for Michael to release Häkkinen in front of him, absolutely, for sure. The critical thing now is, can McLaren get Coulthard in and out and make sure that he stays ahead of Rubens Barrichello? And when it all shakes out, I think Michael will still be leading this race, and it depends how good Coulthard's stop is. Coulthard leading the race into the pit lane for his first stop, James.
David Coulthard comes in, and what's he going to do this time? His lead over Michael Schumacher was negligible when he came in. Schumacher will definitely take the lead of the race as they come down the hill. Coulthard, the tyres going on, not a bad stop. Fuel goes in, and it's 7.3 seconds. Another superb stop by the McLaren team. So he'll come out, I think, behind Michael Schumacher, who's just crossed the start-finish line. And Rubens Barrichello also in from second place. So when it shakes out, there's Häkkinen in the background. So Coulthard rejoins in front of Mika Häkkinen, but does Rubens Barrichello? I think he doesn't. He's behind Mika Häkkinen. So Mika has jumped Rubens Barrichello in that first round of pit stops, I think.
Well, that's Coulthard there, it's got a big David written on the back of it, and there's Häkkinen. So the Ferrari must be Barrichello. Häkkinen, this has worked out beautifully for him too. Where is Michael Schumacher? We need to pick him up somehow on the TV screen. I'm assuming, there he is. There is Michael Schumacher. He's into the Imola chicane as Coulthard exits, and it's not worked out at all well. We're seeing a replay of the Jordans touching through Lycée. That's Trulli's party trick of the afternoon as the Prost goes scampering across the gravel. He'll have a little bounce when it touches the grass, and that's Heidfeld having yet another mistake there.
Now let's look at that Trulli incident, because I mean he really muscled his way through there on Frentzen, who looked like he was a bit dawdling a little bit into the Lycée. And Trulli, as you say, his party trick this afternoon, they touch wheels. Will there be words afterwards as we look at De La Rosa, I think? It's Verstappen, in fact. He's changed his helmet colours back again after the last Grand Prix. He was supporting the Dutch national side, repainted his helmet bright orange, but it's back to its normal again. But
so Michael Schumacher is 5.3 seconds ahead then as you watch the Arrows driver trying to get the wheel back on. He must put the steering wheel on before he leaves the car. He won't want to be sitting there very long as they're storming past about 160 miles an hour. Schumacher leads Coulthard by 5.3 seconds, and yes indeed, Häkkinen did clear Barrichello.
But let's just talk a little bit about Jenson Button. Not scored any points in his last 4 starts. I mean, a terrific start to the season. Scored points, of course, at the British Grand Prix, and a bit of a lock-up there from Ralf Schumacher. But Jenson now right on the gearbox of his teammate, and that's where he's got to be if he wants to keep this Williams drive. Jenson really looking to turn back the form book as Coulthard sets the fastest lap with a 1:19.479.
Yes, Coulthard taking, I agree with you on Button, it's exactly where he needs to be, and then even having a go at Ralph to say, hey, look, me too, I can be that good. But Coulthard took a full 1.4 seconds out of Michael Schumacher's lead on that lap, and it's now down to just 3.6. I suspect, remember the two McLarens were faster in the warm-up significantly than the Ferraris. I suspect now they've cleared Barrichello, they should have a better car, especially as the tyres start to wear a little bit. Interestingly, Verstappen's Arrows is parked on the pit straight with a stationary yellow above it as Coulthard shapes up to lap the Prost of Heidfeld. Heidfeld kindly moves completely off the racing line, and now just 1.9 seconds. I don't believe there's anybody between them, is there? There's not. It's just fresh air now between Schumacher in the lead and Coulthard 1.9 seconds down the road, and Häkkinen not quite getting through the traffic as well.
Coulthard has had the strangest weekend. He had a fuel pump failure on Friday and only did 6 laps. On Saturday morning he had a full fuel pump failure and then an engine failure, and he had a real tough time as Häkkinen gets through the back markers as well. He had a real tough time in qualifying yesterday. It was a real test of character for David Coulthard, who eventually managed to unhook a fantastic lap, but we were all wondering whether if he'd had a clear session with a good car that wasn't breaking down on him, whether he would have pushed Michael Schumacher a little bit more. For sure he would have taken that pole away from him. Michael would have had to extend himself. Now we're going to see the battle we've been waiting for a couple of races' time as Coulthard closes right up on the back of Michael Schumacher.
It's the only session we saw all through this race meeting where McLaren wasn't at the top, and particularly Coulthard was in final qualifying, where Michael Schumacher put in a stunning first lap of the afternoon. But now the lead is down to 1.3 seconds, and at this stage Coulthard's got to make sure he's concentrating on his bit of the racetrack and not focusing too much on the rear wing of that Ferrari, but he's going to be happy.
So we're looking at reasons for why Michael Schumacher might be losing time. His last lap, a 1:21.205. Doesn't seem to have had a great deal of traffic on that lap. He's closing up on some more on a Prost. I think it probably is the case, Martin, that he doesn't like this second set of tyres very much. It seems odd, I know, to when you watch it. They're all black and round and there's 4 of them and you bolt them on. How can there be a difference between them? But there so often is, and quite often, particularly in the middle stint of a race, we see the second set of tyres just doesn't work quite so well. It was one of the reasons why Schumacher got into trouble in Jerez in '97, which allowed Jacques Villeneuve to make that move on him. And of course, the World Championship turned at that point, and these tyres do seem to be very much of a struggle for Michael Schumacher.
Yes, that's the point. When you're saving brand new sets of tyres for the race, inevitably you don't know what they're like, and you put them on, and it's a chemical reaction when the rubber is biting the track. And look how close Coulthard is now, and he's not close enough to have a go up the inside into Lycée, but he really is just homing straight in. Another 0.7 of a second faster, and Häkkinen now easily the fastest man on the racetrack, back there in third.
Now, Nigel Mansell always used to say, when you catch a car like this, what you've got to do is attack straight away, as we watch Mazzacani just losing control. Mazzacani was down in 19th place and going off at very high speed and making a very light, well, not too bad an impact with the tyre barrier. Shouldn't be too much damage to him after that. But Nigel Mansell always used to say, when you catch a car, what you have to do is attack it immediately. And Coulthard has now caught Schumacher. Is he going to attack immediately?
Well, he's going to try, but he's still got the same old problem of getting through 1, 2 and 3 in the dirty air of that Ferrari, and especially on highish downforce circuits like this. You know, a Formula 1 car punches a pretty big hole in the air, and all of that turbulent. But look, Coulthard appears to have good speed in the middle. Again, could come to the white line. Can he pick up a bit of slipstream now? He's just about close enough. Yes, he is homing in, and Michael Schumacher knows it, and he goes to the inside. Now we know Coulthard's better under braking, and he tries to go around the outside. Oh, don't get too close to him, Dave, for goodness sake, you'll be popped up in the air. But Coulthard, he knows he's got to show Michael Schumacher some muscle. But as I said earlier on in this race, Schumacher doesn't need to win this race. David Coulthard does.
Let's have another look, Martin.
Yes, let's have another look. And there was not a lot of point in trying to squeeze Michael Schumacher at that point. It could have ended up in tears, that one with a broken wishbone. But there's another view of it. And David really saying, hey, I'm coming after you. But I think he was pushing his luck a little. It was, yes, do that one more time, he says. And, well, other gestures.
I think Schumacher will now be expecting that move possibly into the hairpin as we turn back and look at this battle for 6th, 7th and 8th place, still raging as it has from lap 1 between Trulli, Frentzen and Ralf Schumacher, and it's in that order: Trulli 6th, Frentzen 7th, Ralf 8th, and Jensen Button still holding on in 9th place. Terrific scrap here for 6th place between the 2 Jordans and the 2 Williamses, and really this is the battle for the best of the rest in a way. Jordan were 3rd in the Constructors' Championship last year, desperately want to hold on to it again, particularly with the news this weekend. They're going to have Works Honda engines for the next 5 years. There's an enormous wave of confidence at Jordan. At the moment they're languishing down in 5th place in the World Championship, and today they need some big points to get themselves back up where they feel they should be, which is 3rd in the Constructors. And at the moment it's Benetton who are currently 3rd place. Schumacher leads by just 0.6 of a second. You can see it, it's almost a cigarette paper between them. David Coulthard, and then 3rd place is Mika Häkkinen, 4th Rubens Barrichello, 5th still Jacques Villeneuve, 6th Trulli, 7th Frentzen, 8th is Ralf Schumacher, 9th is Button, and 10th is Fisichella. But this is the story of the race, and just look how close they are.
Now this is the chance for Coulthard. This is his chance, because I don't think Michael is going to clear that, what I think is a Sauber in front of him, before turn 3. He's not going to clear that before. Will he catch him in turn 3? Because if he does, that is when Coulthard is going to get a good clean run at him, because Michael is then disadvantaged in the same way he is in the dirty air of another car. And there is Wirtz off the road, continuing his terrible season. But I don't want to see this. I want to see this. Coulthard has got a much better run, but Michael Schumacher, the widest Ferrari you've ever seen, managing to occupy just about all of the track at the same time.
And that's where he got past Barrichello. That's where Coulthard passed Barrichello under traction coming out of that corner as he has another look down into the hairpin.
No, you'll never get through there. That's definitely one at a time, and there's no way that David's going to have a chance through there. Wirtz leaping over the tyres, but this is the real action. The 2 McLarens now really harrowing Michael Schumacher. He simply doesn't have the speed, and that's Wirtz trying the Trulli trick, and look, that's a bit pathetic, isn't it?
So absolutely nothing separating them. That's Jean Alesi, you can see, doesn't quite understand what on earth is going on there.
That was smart stuff from Alesi. He saw him coming, look, turned out and let him just stream through. So John Alesi there showing great awareness.
Michael Schumacher's history is a history of taking no prisoners. He's taken no prisoners in all the confrontations he's had wheel to wheel with David Coulthard down the years. There's been many an angry word exchange between the 2 of them. We think back to Spa in 1998. We think back to Argentina in 1998. They had to sit together on an aeroplane watching a video in order to calm each other down. They were at each other's throats.
Look, James, sorry to interrupt. Look, but this time David is going to get up the inside, surely. Yes, he is. And now he's got track position. He'll run Michael out. That was super stuff from Coulthard. He made Schumacher have to lift off, and can Häkkinen make good use of that now? And, well, Michael holding his line, but David is really in. I wouldn't want to meet him this afternoon anywhere. Coulthard really in super aggressive mode. and you were listing the times they run into each other, but more recently Silverstone, and remember in Kuala Lumpur last year, it was always David that came off best in those type of situations, just like he did then. And did you notice that he wasn't satisfied in just passing him, he actually ran him off the road to make sure he had to get out of the throttle.
Here it is again, take us through it, Martin.
So Michael having to cover the outside line, you're not allowed to move twice, Michael knows that, and David also knew that too, and David now thinking, okay, right, you want to play hard with me, tough with me, I'm going to run you to the outside, you're going to have to get off the throttle. And the tyre walls touched on a couple of occasions through there, and I tell you, the Formula 1 cars don't have to look close when you're in that position, but look, they're touching again. Coulthard's rear tyre just pushing your luck there a bit, David. The suspension is not very tough in that when it's forced in that direction. They're supersonic tough when they're when they're being used as they're designed to be, but not like that.
Aggressive, tough, ruthless, and very, very fast. What happened to the David Coulthard we used to know? Absolutely extraordinary. A changed man so far this season. He leads now by just 1 second from Michael Schumacher. Mika Häkkinen is menacing, just 7/10 behind, as Heinz-Harald Frentzen pits from 8th place. He's behind Jarno Trulli, and Ralf Schumacher's got past him as well. So it's Coulthard leading, Schumacher second, Häkkinen third, Barrichello still fourth, Villeneuve holding on well in fifth, Trulli still sixth, Ralf Schumacher 7th, Frentzen pitting there from 8th, Fisichella doing well getting up to 9th, and Button has dropped down to 10th place. We saw Johnny Herbert, of course, retiring earlier, and Eddie Irvine slipped down to 17th.
As we watch Fisichella leaping across the curves, he's going to run out of road on the outside for sure. Just gets it on the brake. His tyres are turning green because they spray paint the grass here to make it look prettier.
Been some time since we've seen McLaren with a race pace such as this, able to really take on Ferrari, as Jarno Trulli pits from 6th position. So that puts Ralf Schumacher up into 6th place and puts Jenson Button back into the top 10. But of course Jenson will still have to make his second stop. So a terrific scrap still going on there for the last points paying position between Trulli, Schumacher and Button, Frentzen involved in it as well. And this is the battle at the front. Some great scraps here today at the French Grand Prix here at Magny-Cours. Sometimes the drivers say it's not a particularly thrilling track, but it's giving us a great Grand Prix here today, and a wonderful scrap for the lead between Coulthard, Schumacher and Häkkinen. Ferrari
mechanics outside our window, James, and I hear, and yes, look, Michael Schumacher is in, and so is Mika Häkkinen. So 2nd and 3rd place in. Häkkinen has to sweep around the Ferrari pits. Michael Schumacher has a straighter run. Who can get their cars up and running earliest? Schumacher's away, but Häkkinen must be just behind him. And, well, Häkkinen's not coming out at all, is he? And now he leaves, so a bad stop there for Häkkinen. That now could swap around and play into Barrichello's hands, because he was right behind them.
Yeah, Schumacher stopped 7.3 seconds and Häkkinen's 8.9, so he lost 1.6 seconds. Somehow, maybe the fuel hose didn't come out quite quickly enough, but Häkkinen has dropped out, dropped a little time there.
Now, as the highest placed McLaren on the grid, David Coulthard would be given the option of choosing his race strategy and having priority on when he wanted to stop, and quite clearly he's running a little bit more fuel all through the Grand Prix, and that's certainly paying dividends for David. Can he stretch? How much more fuel has he got in? Can he do a couple more laps? Got some clear track in front of him, James, and he needs to maximise this, and he can win this Grand Prix. What kind of stop can Barrichello have? Here we are now watching that. And it's all about the fuel hose now. The tyres are on. Look, no, the right front. A problem with the right front.
Oh, so, what a tragedy for Rubens Barrichello. He was just 7.1 seconds behind David Coulthard. And once again in France, the number 2 Ferrari has problems in the pit stop. This time last year, the Ferrari mechanics got the wrong tyres for Eddie Irvine, the number 2 Ferrari guy. And once again, Rubens Barrichello comes off worse. But what about Coulthard? Look at this pace.
This is crucial. McLaren are out in the pit lane. This is a Grand Prix winning pit stop coming up if they can get it absolutely right.
David Coulthard has done everything that could have been asked of him on the racetrack. Now will the mechanics do everything that's asked of them in the pit lane? This is the stop which will decide the outcome of this French Grand Prix, although I'm sure there's still some racing to be had out on the track as well. But as we watch Mika Häkkinen, David Coulthard is coming down and closing in on his second and final stop. He's in the pit lane now, and we're cutting to him. Here he is, David Coulthard, the race leader. He has 23.3 seconds lead over Michael Schumacher in second place as he comes to a stop, and the fuel hose goes on. Forklift is the name of the guy who's applying that fuel hose. A terrific guy, a very experienced man. Brilliant pit work by the McLaren crew. 7.5 seconds, the clock stopped late, and that should be enough to give David Coulthard the lead of this race as Schumacher comes to the Elysée corner.
Yes, and look, Coulthard joins the track. He is indeed ahead, but he's got to pick up speed. Michael Schumacher is already up to speed. Coulthard will retain the lead of the French Grand Prix, but I don't think Michael Schumacher will be very far behind by the time they get down to Adelaide, but far enough, I suspect.
Amazing pit work there by the McLaren team. They cannot be praised highly enough. David Coulthard did a fantastic job getting past Michael Schumacher on the racetrack, and what a great job by the pit crew. So Coulthard leads from Michael Schumacher, then it's Mika Häkkinen, Rubens Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher's 5th, and Jacques Villeneuve is in 6th place.
The key part of Coulthard's day today is how decisive he's been through the back markers. He's been the best man at going for it, taking a decision, making it stick, and that's certainly giving him an advantage as the race unfolds. But interestingly, even though it was his outlap, he was still 0.6 of a second faster than Michael through the second half of that lap. So Coulthard still appears to have a speed advantage.
Yes, 2.1 seconds Schumacher to Häkkinen, and you certainly shouldn't rule out Mika Häkkinen at any stage of the game. Been a little bit lacklustre recently, Mika Häkkinen, but seems very fired up today as in comes Ralf Schumacher from 5th place. So his second stop on lap 47, quite a long middle stint for the Williams team. Jenson Button is still in 9th place, so he's dropped away from his teammate a little bit. Ralf has been able to drop him, but I think when Ralf comes out, he'll find Jenson pretty close to him. And there is Ralf back out on the track as Michael Schumacher now sits in his cockpit and thinks very, very hard about what he's going to do about this McLaren situation. Little picture there of Mika Häkkinen taking off, I think. Yes, Mika Häkkinen sort of cutting out the chicane almost altogether. Now, if you gain any advantage from that, you might get black flag.
Häkkinen putting his hand up, saying, hey, I've slowed down, I've not made an advantage here. Coulthard onto the pit straight.
Got an incident down at the hairpin. It looks like Alesi having his second spin of the day with one of the two Minardis, which must be Marc Genet. So Alesi and Genet, that was a battle for 15th place. What an ignominious way to go for a man like Jean Alesi with 31 podiums to his name, just to be nerfed by Marc Genet in a Minardi. David Coulthard, the 29-year-old from Twineholme in Scotland, went into this race with 2 Grand Prix victories to his credit so far this season. And we look again at a super move down the inside by Ralf Schumacher.
Yes, Schumacher there getting track position, the Jordan yielding relatively easily, then didn't even try and position himself on the way out, did he, to get a good run. So Ralf Schumacher passes truly up into 6th place.
A tear-off strip comes off from Mika Häkkinen's visor, and he's focusing his efforts on the back of Michael Schumacher's car. They put these plastic strips on their visors so the oil gets collected on it. They can rip it off and get a clear field of vision. We've got 15 laps to go in which Mika Häkkinen has to try to get past Michael Schumacher. And, well, once we get that underway, we'll also start answering all sorts of questions about team orders beyond here. Do McLaren put all their eggs in the Coulthard basket after this? Do they make him the point man to go after the World Championship? Is Mika Häkkinen going to be passing Michael Schumacher in vain in terms of his own championship aspirations? All these questions will no doubt come out at the end of this race, as David Coulthard goes serenely on, 10.3 seconds clear of Michael Schumacher, with Häkkinen right in his trail.
Yes, I was listening to the engine note of the cars as you were explaining that, James, and Michael Schumacher can barely touch the throttle till he builds up some speed and some downforce, and he is clearly lacking some mechanical grip. But I don't know, somehow or other, Häkkinen never seems to be the one having a go, but he's got to have a go this afternoon. He was strong, and Michael Schumacher makes a mistake. He's locked his rear wheels, under braking into the hairpin. He's been slow there all day, and Michael Schumacher, that's unusual, makes a mistake, and it was so easy for Häkkinen in the end.
Well, sheer joy, as you can see in the McLaren garage. They're certainly keeping their enthusiasm under control. I think they've probably got absolutely everything crossed. They desperately need a 1-2, as we said, going into this race, and right now they've got one. Absolutely extraordinary mistake by Michael Schumacher, who has got a problem of some sort. He's slowing right down. You can see at the back of your picture there. We don't know what it is. It's probably something to do with the engine or the transmission, because it certainly isn't a brake issue, obviously.
Bad news for Ferrari, good news for this year's World Championship. Michael Schumacher is slowing. Now we got blue smoke, so he is out of the race, of course, just on time as well, and he's taking the shortcut. And what are you doing, Michael? He's going to have to get off the road. He's trying to stay off the racing line. He's trying to recover to the pits, and that's smart thinking from Michael. That's very generous of him. And realised he may be dropping oil, took to the grass, and Michael Schumacher retires from the 2000 French Grand Prix.
Which blows the World Championship wide open going into this race. Michael Schumacher had 56 points to David Coulthard's 34. If they stay like this, it'll be 56 to 44. Just 12 points in it between the two of them. And then surely, Martin, we're going to start seeing some team orders from McLaren.
Yes, well, we'll have to wait and see, but Coulthard now with a 12.4 second lead, and look, Michael and Hakkinen having a look. Michael's, I guess it must be a gearbox problem or something. Michael already looking around, and it just, I think it threw it into gear and just locked the rear wheels. It wasn't as if he braked too late. He clearly already had a problem as he was heading down that back straight, and that elevates Barrichello up into third place, and Hakkinen and Coulthard, 2 McLarens ahead of him. This is the fight for 4th place. Jacques Villeneuve, and just 9/10 of a second behind Ralf Schumacher, the Williams BMW team leader. And, well, he caught up reasonably quickly to Villeneuve, but hasn't made much impression now he's arrived on the scene.
Ralf has had a terrific day. Well, both of these two guys have had a terrific day. And, well, it would be unkind for either of them to lose out towards the end, but that's motor racing, and certainly Ralf Schumacher certainly has clear intentions of getting that 4th place away from Jacques Villeneuve. It's been a while since Ralf Schumacher has scored himself any points, 3 races in fact.
And Ralf just touching the back there, James, while you were looking out of the window. Ralf just touching the back of Villeneuve's car there, coming into the last corner. And never going to be an overtaking opportunity, but Villeneuve extremely slow through there. Ralf lucky not to lose his nose. It's been confirmed, actually, it wasn't a hydraulic problem on the Ferrari. It was indeed a blown engine. So whether Michael had got a bit of oil coming out of the back of it as he turned into the hairpin, he certainly lost the back end in a hurry. Looked to me like it still was a downshift problem rather than a driver outbraking himself. But still the fight goes on for 4th place. Villeneuve and Ralf Schumacher. Michael Schumacher out of the race with a blown engine.
No sign of the rain which some people forecast earlier in the day. It's still a sunny day. The clouds are coming over. The track temperature has dropped a little bit as the Jordan locks up a wheel. Heinz-Harald Frentzen still being attacked by Jenson Button, and Button obviously putting a lot of pressure on Frentzen because Frentzen's starting to make some mistakes, I think.
Yeah, solid day for Jenson Button. He's had 3 or 4 pretty lacklustre weekends recently, but I would say this is one of his strongest performances of the year, and very, very timely too. But still, he can't get past that Jordan, even though, without doubt, he's in a faster car, faster package. And
the real sad thing about this, Martin, it's been a terrific scrap throughout the race between Frentzen and Button, but look at it, it's just for 7th place. This isn't for a points-paying position. Of course, one of the cars in front may well retire, but all this effort just for no points at all. So at the front, Coulthard leading by 16.5 seconds now from Mika Hakkinen, who was as little as 1 or 2 seconds behind him earlier on, but he seems to have dropped back a little bit now, Hakkinen. Content, I think, to finish second, and for sure the McLaren team will tell them to hold station. There's absolutely no need for either of them to catch up. Barrichello, you're looking at now on the screen, of course, caught right up to his team leader Michael Schumacher in the closing stages of the Canadian Grand Prix, and was told in no uncertain terms not to pass his team leader. Michael, of course, suffering at the time from a brake problem.
Yes, a good drive, a solid drive from Rubens again today, but you can't say sparkling, can you? He's in 3rd place, but he's 30 seconds behind Coulthard, and I think he'll wish he'd have got a little bit better setup and been able to stay up with those leading pack to get his first chance of a Grand Prix win. Coulthard moves into the final lap, and there's 2 critical things today. Coulthard will, if he wins this race, at the end of this lap, he's beaten Michael Schumacher in a straight fight. And then, to add as a major bonus, Schumacher has dropped out of the race. So, stunning day for Coulthard, dream ticket, and also then Hakkinen following him up in 2nd place.
He's not just beaten Michael Schumacher though, Martin, he's also beaten Mika Hakkinen, his teammate, which is something that a lot of people last season said would not happen. But David Coulthard reinvented himself over the winter, and I remember he was talking earlier in the season and saying, you know, I'm not such a nice guy. I want to win races. After the British Grand Prix, he said it. I want to pass people. I want to be aggressive. As Eddie Irvine tries to be a hero, a little bit of showboating on the last lap, knowing that the cameras are following David Coulthard. Absolutely no point in him trying to get past him.
Well, David, of course, cruising to the finish line. Eddie on a fresh set of tyres, enjoying himself, but don't run into the back of Coulthard. Eddie, you will not be Mr. Popular in the UK on that one. But David now just a few corners from home.
Yes, David Coulthard in the final sector of the final lap of the 2000 French Grand Prix. He's heading for his third Grand Prix victory of the season, a victory which will take him to within 12 points of Michael Schumacher in the World Championship. David Coulthard wins the French Grand Prix for McLaren, a 1-2 that they so badly needed from Mika Häkkinen, who now comes down some 14.7 seconds behind him. A superb day for the boys from Woking and the guys in grey. Mercedes-Benz too, a superb job from all of them. Ferrari go away to lick their wounds. Michael Schumacher goes away with no points. Rubens Barrichello will go away with 4 points. A terrific race right the way through the field as Rubens comes through to finish the lap. A great performance by Villeneuve, a great performance by Ralf Schumacher. Frentzen, Trulli, Button have all been huge today, but the hugest of all has been David Coulthard. There are all his mechanics. They're absolutely ecstatic. They've seen Häkkinen celebrate so many times with his mechanics in the past. This is their time now.
It's 11 years since McLaren have won here in France, and now they get the perfect result. A 1-2 from world champion Mika Häkkinen and the teammate who's pushing to succeed him, David Coulthard.
David, in many ways a frustrating weekend, but it certainly came good for you in the end.
Yep, I think it was a very tiring weekend because of all these little problems. You of course take a little bit out of you, but nonetheless managed to keep it all together. And Pat and Paul, again, my two race engineers, give me a good car. The mechanics, the hours they worked this weekend is incredible, and it's all credit to them that the car ran reliably. And it's a great day for McLaren to get the 1-2, especially with Michael having the problem.
It couldn't have gone any better. I mean, I think the important thing is David overtook Michael fair and square. Good overtaking manoeuvre. Because it was a little easier, but I mean, he was still pushing on him, and our strategy was right. Mechanics did a great job in the pits, and all in all, a good ending.
I respect Michael's performances immensely. You know, he's a great driver and a benchmark in Formula One, but I just want to make the point that when I was on the outside of him, I felt that he took a line which was driving me off the circuit. I don't believe that was his normal line. Now, is that sporting or not? I know there'll be diehards who say, shut up and just drive the car, and there'll be those who might agree with me and say, look, that's not sporting. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I won the race and I'm delighted.
I can be only pleased with the second place today, you know.
You really were in a dominating position, weren't you? The McLarens were going much better than the Ferraris today.
Yeah, we can say that, definitely. You know, we were performing extremely fast, and we can be happy about that. We just have to keep focused. A long way to go.
Now, what about the Drivers' Championship? Is there any chance that you might help David now?
8 races to go. Hey, come on.
Not a good afternoon for you.
Yeah, but you know, a season is long, and I always said this before, so now we have the proof, unfortunately, for that, and still a long way to go. I'm pretty sure we fairly quickly fix these kind of problems we see today, and we will have good races again after that.
We didn't have a better car than the McLaren today, so we have to work better for the next time. I didn't have 2 good pit stops either. I had 2 bad pit stops today, so that put me back a little bit. So basically it was okay because I had a good start, but then the pace I was running wasn't enough to keep David behind. Then I catch the group again, but it was kind of the race was going well until my second pit stop when I dropped back.
Well, I'm very happy. The car was pretty good. It's been good all weekend, qualifying, and then the start went well as usual, and at least we were a little bit quicker in the race this time. There's only Ralf that was quicker, but it was easy to keep him behind. Then he had an engine problem. Too bad, because it was fun with him behind there.
I made a terrible start, dropped back a position, and I was able to get past at the hairpin a couple of people. But Frentzen was impossible to overtake. I mean, he probably made quite good racing, but I think Ralf had the same problem trying to pass Frentzen. But I think me and Ralf made it quite interesting, coming out the pitch together alongside each other. So it's been a good weekend. Just wish we could have got some points.
And so David Coulthard taking 10 points out of Schumacher's lead. Häkkinen is 6 behind his teammate. Barrichello half a dozen away in 4th. No improvement for Fisichella. Ralf Schumacher collecting a couple more. And Villeneuve's 3 points, moving him above Frentzen and ahead of Trulli. in the constructors. Ferrari's lead slashed to 6 points by those rampant McLarens. Williams closing up on the non-scoring Benetton, and Villeneuve has taken BAR to within a couple of points of Jordan. OK, Tony Jardine. David Coulthard on the front row for the first time ever in France, but he certainly did not get the start he wanted.
No, he didn't, and this was very, very worrying because we thought, well, he's lost it already. We all desperately hoping for that great start from David Coulthard after his brave efforts in practice, all his problems. Look at Michael Schumacher going right across his bows there, and because of that, Rubens Barrichello even gets ahead of him as well. So David Coulthard comes through the first bend in third place. Like, oh no, this is not what we want. Rubens is going to allow Michael to just go straight away. And he's done it before Schumacher. He did it at San Marino. He got severely criticised for cutting across the field at the start.
So there it was, Rubens Barrichello riding shotgun for Michael Schumacher, and absolutely imperative for Coulthard to get past him, and quickly.
Yeah, but this was great manoeuvre because he was looking strong and he was closing in. Could he do it? Adelaide, one of the best passing places. He looked down the inside, it was blocked by Rubens Barrichello. He let Rubens come out wide. He took a late apex, went inside and powered his way bravely through, getting up to 170, 180 miles per hour and into that vital second place. And then he closed mercilessly down on Michael Schumacher.
And he pressured Michael Schumacher. He tried and tried to get past him. There was a gesture that I know he already regrets, but it just showed his intent.
Yeah, it did, but how many times has he been thwarted by Michael Schumacher in the past? You think about when Schumacher put him up into the air in 1998 in Argentina. All these things are going through his mind. He's getting a little bit Italian here, isn't he? Because look, the hand comes out of the cockpit. And there he is, there's the gesture, look, get out. He's been forced wide, of course, by Michael Schumacher as well. He won't be proud of that, and it could bring the sport into disrepute. But then, look at this controlled aggression. I'm not having that. Just dives down the inside and powers his way through. Touching of the wheels, a little bit of bodywork. The rear wheels were almost interlocked there, and that shows how David Coulthard has been on it. That is superb. That'll put a lot of gremlins behind him, that getting past Schumacher, fair and square.
We must pat the whole McLaren team on the back because they've had some very, very difficult times this weekend, and quite a few of them are absolutely exhausted at the end of it, but they produced the perfect pit stop, and after that we knew that Coulthard was going to win here.
David Coulthard had got ahead and he stayed out for 3 extra laps. Strategy absolutely right, and he came in and this was a critical stop, and they did all this in 7.5 seconds. Great work by all of them, as you say. He gets out. Now this is the sight and this is the dangerous point, because coming out of the pit lane there, it's very fast the exit, and you can see they sweep across the first corner. There's Schumacher just coming through now, second place. Wonderful feeling from McLaren, wonderful for Hakkinen and Coulthard together.
It was 7.5, that clock stopping a little bit late there, but then bye-bye Michael Schumacher with that blown engine.
Yeah, but not, David Coulthard had already put the manoeuvre on him. He'd already got legitimately into the first place. Now, in the warm-up this morning, Michael Schumacher going to Adelaide here had put a wheel on the grass and got sideways. Martin had said maybe the downshift was working a little bit too early, but maybe oil was already coming out and onto those tyres there as Hakkinen went past. But very sensibly, Michael Schumacher pulls off out of the way and onto the grass so as not to lay this oil all over the track. But he said, look, it only takes one little failure. The championship is wide open again. That's why I refuse to talk about the championship. And here it is, just 12 points in it. It's brilliant.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. And so here's your complete rundown of the 50th French Grand Prix. Coulthard the winner and with the fastest lap. Hakkinen second, same as last year, when Rubens Barrichello was also third. A fine effort from Villeneuve. Ralf Schumacher back in the points for Williams. Trulli in sixth, just like Canada. Teammate Frentzen right behind him. Button eighth in the second, Williams. Fisichella finishing once again. Top 10 for Salo, Sauber. Then teammate Deniz under fire. Heidfeld 12th for the home Prost team. Irvine's Jaguar way down there in 13th, ahead of Alesi, the last official finisher, Genet's Minardi. Michael Schumacher's engine blew. De La Rosa's gearbox, that failed. Wirtz and Mazzacane both spun out. Verstappen and Herbert both had gearbox trouble. And Ricardo Zonta, he crashed out on lap 16. Our next port of call is the Austrian Grand Prix, and watch out for a special Murray and Martin show on the Friday night. Check your local listings for the exact times. Qualifying, we are live from 11:30 on Saturday morning. The race, our build-up starting at 12:15 on the Sunday. Highlights at 11:45. Well, David Coulthard's first victory here in France comes on the back of a very tough weekend for the McLaren team. There is still ground to make up, but when it comes to overtaking the best in the business, Coulthard has what it takes. Good night.
Another chance to see the Euro 2000 final on the way next.